Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's up, sports fans? So, as you can tell, decided to do another live stream. It's been a couple of weeks now since I did the live play-by-play, but this is the first time I'm doing a live stream with my actual Chomping at the Bit podcast. So it's probably gonna be the first episode of many, for sure. And just chilling, having some fun with you guys. Gonna talk about the NFL playoffs and if anybody trickles in, definitely talk about some questions you may have. You want to bring your own opinion, definitely do that. But like I said, laid back, just talking some NFL playoffs because this was a really good um, Super Wildcard weekend, and I mean I have to admit, like most of the games are really good. Actually, pretty much all of them were pretty good, to be honest with you. Now we did have, I would say, probably a game or two that might have been a little bit less competitive than others. But all in all, it was a good weekend for the NFL. So take a look back at those games and then take a look ahead to divisional round in the NFL where we have some really good matchups, some possible, upsets that could be brewing. So let's go ahead, dive into these. And like I said, as you come through, you want to talk some football, drop a comment, and like I said, I'll pull your comment up on the stream, and we can interact that way. So as you can see, pulling up the bracket here, and I wanted to start with the NFC, which was the first game of the weekend, which was Seahawks and the Niners. The Niners won it 41-23. It was it was a good game for the Niners because we got to see Brock Purdy for his first playoff game, go up against the team that he's seen, I believe, once this season. I believe when the Seahawks played the Niners the two times in the regular season, the first time it was Garoppolo, and I believe the second time was Purdy. So, for Purdy being Mr. Irrelevant, we got to see him in a playoff setting. Yes, it was at home, so that definitely did help him. But I felt like he played really well in this game, showed himself really well. The Niners won 41-23. It was a great season by the Seahawks. They have a lot they can look forward to going into next year, but they just weren't the better team on this day. So looking at it now, I feel like the Niners could be in a position where, Garoppolo will be available in a couple of weeks, it seems like. If Purdy gets them to that situation, I think it's the NFC title game where I think Garoppolo could come back. Purdy gets them there. That means he would have won like 6, 7 in a row or something like that. Shanahan at that point will have to decide whether you go against the hot hand in Purdy and bring in Garoppolo, who was in this situation last season, got the Niners to the NFC title game, or you stick with Purdy, like I said, with the hot hand, and you kind of just ride it out with him. Then, complicating matters more, if Purdy were able to get to the Super Bowl, win it, the Niners will then have to figure out next season what do they do. Because you have Trey Lance, who's the future of the franchise, at least he should be, but now we don't know. If Purdy turns out to be some, I'm not gonna say all time great, but like, if he goes on a run here, you gotta kind of give him the chance to start next season. I mean, who knows? Maybe the Niners are sitting on the best quarterback story since Brady, who was drafted in the 6th round. They have Mr. Irrelevant. Most times, Mr. Irrelevance, we never really hear from him. But Purdy's starting to write his own little story here with 4 touchdowns against the Seahawks. So, got to give him all the credit in the world. Shanahan definitely, well, Shanahan and his staff gets a lot of credit for Purdy as well. But the defense was still really good in this one. Outside of the second quarter where the Seahawks, scored 17 points, the Niners defense held them in check. and that's still, I believe, the biggest, um, I guess, pro is their defense. That's what they hang their hat on. Offensively, Purdy just doesn't have to turn the ball over, just make the right play. And I think that's a formula for the Niners that could land them in a Super Bowl. But yeah, like I said, Seahawks season's over. They are going to have their own questions in terms of Geno Smith. Do you, I guess, look to continue along with Geno Smith's kind of reclamation project? Because you know he was a bust in New York with the Jets. Got a second opportunity here with the Seahawks to start. He kind of bounced around a couple places in between, but this was his best opportunity to start. Got them to 9-8. But for the Seahawks, they're gonna have to think about continuing with him, drafting a guy and starting that development process, or try to, go in free agency or on the trade market to upgrade the position. And I'm interested to see which path the Seahawks actually take. But let's move on to the next game. So I'm kind of gonna go in the order of the games that were played. So then Saturday night we got Jaguars Chargers, which the Jaguars won 31-30. This one was probably the most entertaining, the wildest game of the weekend for sure. Because looking at the first half, Trevor Lawrence threw the 4 interceptions. It looked like it got to the point where he was about to be benched, and he somehow, managed to um, get through that. They came out of the half. Well, they scored right before the half, which the way that the game played out ultimately changed the momentum of everything. The Jaguars went on the wild um, comeback in the second half where they scored 24 to the Chargers 3, which, looking at that, you got to put some blame on Staley and the coaching staff, as well as the players. So that's Herbert included, the defense, all that. It looks like Staley's going to somehow make it through all of this because I believe they've fired the offensive coordinator. And as we've seen throughout the NFL, if you're a head coach, they fire your offensive coordinator, but you keep your job. That usually means the next season you're kind of a lame duck. Or maybe not necessarily a lame duck, but your hot seat that you may have been on before is like turned up to the 10th degree at that point because Staley is an offensive guy, I do believe. And the fact that they fired your offensive coordinator just shows that you're the next in line to go. Now, to a lot of people, he probably should have went this time around. Because, like I said, he was on the hot seat going into the playoffs, having a 27-point lead, and then blowing that. Yeah, most coaches do not come back from that. Now, maybe it's just that Staley is safe for now. I don't know. But if a certain coach expressed interest in the job, and by that I mean Sean Payton, I could see the Chargers moving on from Staley for Sean Payton. Now, of course, to get Sean Payton, you got to trade for him. Whether the Chargers could work that out, that's another story. But I don't know how comfortable Staley should feel right now. He did say that he had no thought of him losing his job from this. So I guess it's safe to say that now when it seems like you're going to keep your job. But like I said, I do wonder whether or not he actually will. Um, but then looking on the other side, for Jacksonville, for them to pull off what they did, and for a young group to pull off what they did, that shows the mental toughness of this group. You can equate that to Doug Peterson, who's been there, done that. Kind of took an underdog team. When he had that Eagles squad that was good, it was just that Wentz was down and Foles was in. We didn't really, I don't know. I feel like we didn't really know what to expect from Foles in that situation, but they ran the table, got to the Super Bowl, and won it. Not saying he's going to do the same thing here with this Jags team, but this game was definitely a big step in the development of this group. Lawrence shaking off that terrible first half and having a great second half speaks volumes about him. Speaks volumes about him as a leader. Because there are some quarterbacks around the league that I do question what kind of leader they are. I don't question Lawrence after what I saw. So, looking at that, hey, kudos to this Jaguars team. They are, they're an easy team to root for. I'll say that. And um, yeah, I'm a Patriots fan. Just to let you know, any of you who come through and don't know, but yeah, I can. Now that I don't have a team in the fight, it's kind of just been fun watching these teams. Not worrying about who my team would face next or something like that. So seeing the Jaguars play has been fun. Just fun for me. Now, um, going forward for the Chargers, I think there's going to be probably some pressure on Herbert next year because Herbert is a guy who, wants to, I guess, wants to be mentioned in that top class of the AFC for sure. That exclusive club of Burrow, Allen, Mahomes. Those three are pretty tight. Looking from the outside looking in, you got these two guys, Lawrence, Herbert. And I feel like because of that, these two are going to be compared to each other for years to come. But for right now, you got to say Lawrence is up 1-0, especially for the playoffs. If they meet in the regular season, whatever. But this playoff matchup between these two, I mean, it lived up to it. We kind of got there in a weird way because I did think Chargers Jaguars was going to be the most exciting game of the weekend. I just didn't think the Chargers were going to look so great in the first half, while Jacksonville looked like they didn't belong. And then the roles get reversed in the second half to the point where, like I said, we got to a 1-point game, and I actually made this prediction on another show of it being 31-30 Jacksonville. So, of course, I felt pretty good about that. But yeah, as you got, people are coming in. Let me know. Do you think Coach Staley should have kept his job, or should he have been fired? All right, so I got Ryan Jansen, who I know from my YouTube channel, so appreciate you tuning in. He said, going in, I thought the Chargers would destroy them. I mean, to be honest with you, I actually didn't think that. I thought I picked the Jaguars, and you said he should be fired. I agree with that. I find it hard to believe that Staley somehow survives this, but so far he's kept his job. And I only really picked the Jaguars because I was one of those who thought when they had the good start to the season that they could win that division. Now, of course, when they went through the struggles in the middle part, my prediction was looking a little rough, but ultimately it came true. And now I'm interested to see what happens with them as the level of competition steps up for, Kansas City in the divisional round, which I'll go over that later. Just working my way through the wild card weekend games before talking about divisional round. But go to the next game, which is now Sunday, Bills Dolphins. This is another game, really unexpected. I thought that this was a game that was destined to be a blowout, to be honest with you, because of everything Buffalo's gone through, the emotional lift from Hamlin being released from the hospital, and all that. I mean, I made a random comment, kind of tongue in cheek, that I wouldn't be surprised if Hamlin was to come out, coin toss or whatever, and the crowd just lose it. Didn't happen, but the crowd was still amped. But I think my biggest takeaway from this game was, I like looking at the stats. I don't understand how Miami was in this game. You look at it, Skylar Thompson was like 18 for 46. I mean, usually you get that kind of production and you're looking at a blowout. Didn't happen. Running game, non existent. 20 carries, 42 yards. So how was this game this close? To be honest with you, sitting here right now, I still don't know. But it was a great showing from Miami, and I honestly didn't understand the whole. Oh, hold on, Ryan with another comment. That game was way closer than it should have been. But as a Chiefs fan, I still think the Bills are the favorite to win the Super Bowl. That's interesting. And thanks for letting me know, Ryan, that you're a Chiefs fan. Because I probably would have asked, who do you think would have been your toughest competition in the AFC? So you think it's the Bills? Be honest with you, I have a different team in mind. Well, I mean, you probably guess who it would be, but I'll get into that later. Because I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if the Bills were able to make the Super Bowl. I wouldn't be. And the team I'm probably thinking about, it's kind of the cards are starting to get stacked against them, but I have a feeling that they may be there in the end. Like I said, Ryan, if that's a tease for you, save that for a little bit. But like I said, with Miami and Buffalo, I look at this game and I see one important number by Josh Allen's name, two interceptions. And I feel like when I watch Josh Allen play, you know, you can really only think about Brett Favre. Brett Favre was one of those guys, big arm, but would randomly at times in games make the worst decision. We saw that in this game where I feel like Buffalo had the momentum going. They were right around midfield. I think it was a third down, and Josh Allen had a one-on-one deep downfield, and he kind of just threw a jump ball. Now, part of that was on John Brown, who was the receiver in uh, on the route, because I think he was supposed to run like an out and up almost, but on the out, he kind of slowed down a little bit, then tried to pick up speed. So if he ran the route correctly the whole way through, maybe it's a better throw. I don't know, but it just seemed like one of those 50-50 balls that this Buffalo team doesn't need. They're talented enough to make enough plays to win games like this without Allen feeling like he has to take a chance like that. But I also don't think that's something you can, really get him to stop doing, because I think part of that mentality is what makes him so good right now. Because remember, when Josh Allen came into the league, there were serious questions about him as a quarterback and how good he could be. He's kind of shown that, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. It's just that I worry about, if they're playing against a Kansas City, a Cincinnati, who they have coming up this week. And I kind of gave away whatever. But turnovers like that against those teams could ultimately lead to a loss. Whereas against Miami, they're able to overcome that because of Miami's issues of not having, Tua or Bridgewater down to their third string quarterback, their running game not getting going. It's, like I said, I still don't understand how this game was this close. Yeah, this is one of the probably the weirdest games of the week as well. But weird for different reasons than Chargers Jacksonville. That game turned out to be weird after what we were seeing early on. This one just turned out weird because I still can't figure out how it was just a 3-point game. So I guess you got to give the Dolphins credit for that. And I know there's a report about McDaniel possibly losing his job in Miami prior to the playoffs, which I think would have been crazy. It was a weird year in Miami. Can you blame McDaniel for Tua having what, 4 concussions? Well, 3, and ultimately having to be shut down. Question from Ryan: do you think Tua lasts long in the league? Uh, that's a tough one, because I think for Tua, he would love to play a normal career. But I think with the way that this season went, what we know about concussions and how they affect you long term, I don't know if he's fit to last long in this league. And I don't feel like he probably shouldn't. Is whether or not there's somebody near him who could talk to sit down with Tua and be like, look, you might have to call it an early career because now when I see Tua play, if I see him get hit, the lasting image is going to be him when he was on his back, fingers were all seized up. It's like I had never seen a concussion like that on an NFL field. So it has me really worried about, how long he can really do this for. I mean, I'm rooting for him. I hope he can play another 10, 12 years. But sitting here right now, I just don't think it happens. I mean, good question, Ryan. Really good question. Also, yeah, I noticed I have the little chat box up now, so the comments pop up like right above my head. That's why I didn't pull it on stream, which I could still do. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, good question. Keep them coming, Ryan. But yeah, so Dolphin season's over. They're gonna have to make that question kind of go along with Ryan's question about Tua. Do they commit to Tua next season? Do they look to upgrade that position? Because I'm assuming Bridgewater isn't the long term answer. Skylar Thompson, maybe he becomes the backup of the future. But I think this Dolphins team's built to try to win now with, Hill and Waddle, Gesicki. They have pieces on offense that, can win. Their defense is okay. They could probably stand to upgrade a little bit on defense, but the Dolphins are in a weird situation. They're like I said, they're built to win now, although I don't think they're good enough to win right now. So do they carry on that slow build with Tua, or do they kind of go somewhere else? I don't know. I don't know. And then last word on Buffalo, like I said, if they don't shoot themselves in the foot, I think they have a really good chance to come out of the AFC. But Josh Allen's gonna have to rein it back sometimes. I like his mentality, and I also like to see them use the running game a little bit more. Take some of that pressure off of Josh Allen. Next game, Giants and the Vikings. This was a game that a lot of people were picking the upset, which I found hilarious when the Giants ultimately won, and all the questions were, "Oh, nobody thought you came in as underdogs. Nobody thought you were going to win." This is the probably the most predicted upset of the weekend, the Giants over the Vikings. So I didn't understand that. But what did we get in this game? We got good Daniel Jones, which I think Brian Daboll, because of what he's done with Daniel Jones this year, he may have Coach of the Year on lock. I think there's a couple of other names you could really think about. I mean, I'd have to show some love to Dan Campbell with Detroit with what he did with that team. Like I said, Dayball with the Giants. You could look at Shanahan with the Niners because of their quarterback situation. Um, I think there's another coach I'm thinking of. Well, Sirianni, you got to give him some love. Zach Taylor, maybe with Cincinnati. And then maybe Doug Peterson with Jacksonville. But I think Dayball's probably leading that group right now. And what also made me think about this game is that, Minnesota was called frauds all year. They turn around and lose in the opening round of the playoffs. So I guess they proved a lot of those people right. I thought the Vikings were going to win this game. I feel like this season was so weird that, you know, everything we hear about Kirk Cousins, prime time, or the only game on, how he comes up small. He actually had a pretty good game up until that final play. 4th and 8, you throw a 3-yard out to Hawkinson, who had a really good game. But it's not like Hawkinson created so much separation that you were throwing that pass with the chance of him turning up field to get the first down. The way that pass was thrown, once he caught it, he was automatically going to get tackled. So, not the best decision, and it kind of, puts a damper on Kirk Cousins' game. But let me go ahead with Ryan's question again, or comment. I thought Vikings would be good in the playoffs because they came up big when it mattered. Yeah, yeah, that's true because they came into this one like 11-0 in one score games. And a lot of people looked at that and was like, well, that just proves that they're frauds because, some of the games on the schedule shouldn't have been that close. I kind of like you, Ryan, took it as that shows they know how to win late in games. And when you're going up against a Giants team that, for as much as people think the Vikings were frauds, there were a lot of people that weren't really believing in the Giants early on in the season. I think as the season went on, the belief in the Giants grew more and more. And I feel like people only really liked the Giants in this one because of how much they thought Minnesota were fraudulent. So, I mean, I feel like Kirk Cousins definitely deserves another year because there were some people who thought with the way the playoffs could have gone and what they were expecting Kirk Cousins to do in this game, that Minnesota should think about upgrading him. Like I said, 31 for 39, 273, two touchdowns, no interceptions. I would take that. My issue is Dalvin Cook, because one of the reasons why I thought the Vikings could win this was I thought they would probably rely on Dalvin Cook to help Kirk Cousins kind of get flowing, and then we would see a good game from Kirk Cousins. Cook was 15 carries, 60 yards. That's 4 yards a carry. That's good, but maybe they should have used him a little bit more. I don't know. I don't know. Dalvin Cook has been up and down for me. A lot of it's been because of injuries, but I'm really starting to wonder where he is in terms of like best running back in the league today. I think the talent's definitely there. I feel like he doesn't put up enough numbers to be really recognized in that way. Like I said, looking at the Giants, got to give them all the credit here. Daniel Jones, like I said, 24 for 35, 301, two touchdowns, no interceptions. Probably the best game of his Giants life. And now, mind you, he did that with a receiving core that I could probably guess most of you wouldn't know anybody from the receiving core, at least any of them that played in this game. But he did it with Isaiah Hodgins, who, to be honest with you, I didn't learn until this game that he came from the Buffalo practice squad. Dayball came from Buffalo, so Dayball clearly must know what he's all about. He gave you 8 catches, 105 yards. Pretty big. Slayton, who outside of that drop that kind of kept Minnesota in the game, 4 catches, 88 yards. Take that. Saquon Barkley, we know he's a kind of do-it-all type of back. 5 catches, 56 yards. He also had 9 carries, 53 yards. So over 100 all-purpose yards. You'll take that. So, the Giants moving forward, are they maybe a team of destiny? I mean, that would be such a Giants thing because look at those 2 Super Bowl years with Eli Manning. They kind of came in as wildcard teams. Not a lot was expected of them, and then they kind of just caught fire. So if that's what's happening here, I guess, once again, as a Patriots fan, I can't stomach it. Because I already can't stand the fact that Giants can hold those 2 titles over my head as a Patriots fan. We still have had the better, few years, but it's all good. It's all right. But, yeah, so I guess looking forward, what do the Giants do with Daniel Jones? Has Daniel Jones, just from this one performance, earned himself another contract? Remember, he came into the season with his 5th year declined, so he was set to become a free agent after this year. So you let me know. I think Ryan's still up in here. Let me know if you think Jones deserves another contract. Would you franchise tag him? With that franchise tag, you're looking at about, I think, like $44-45 million a year. Well, for 1 year. Would you go that route, or you sign him for a much lower number for, I don't know, 3, 4 years and go that way. So Ryan says, I think he deserves a contract. I do too, to be honest with you. I'm right there with you. I, I think I think because of this season, you have to look at it as Dayball created something, he started something with Daniel Jones. Let's see it out. Let's see what other steps Dayball can take with Daniel Jones. Who knows? Maybe Daniel Jones, I mean, looking at that division right now, you got Jalen Hurts, you got Dak Prescott, you got whoever's going to start in Washington. I don't know who's going to start in Washington. So you'd probably say Daniel Jones is the third best quarterback in that division right now. Probably pushing Dak for second best. Could we get to a day 2 years from now where Daniel Jones is the best quarterback in that division? I guess possibly. And if that does happen, but but they decide to move on from him, he turns into that style of quarterback. The Giants might end up kicking themselves because I feel like the Giants, you sign Daniel Jones, you probably invest in the wide receiver position. I think Saquon Barkley's contract's coming up. You got to decide there. You give him a new deal. If you don't give it to Daniel Jones, if you get a Daniel Jones, do you franchise Saquon, or do you try to get both of them under contract? Giants offseason is going to be interesting. I think defensively, they're getting there. And they have to find a way to keep all these guys healthy. I mean, the amount of injuries they had this season was ridiculous. But we'll see. So like I said, Vikings are going home. I think Kirk Cousins had a good game, had a good year. That defense is horrible. They need to spend their offseason upgrading that defense. That defense had trouble stopping everybody, and they had to rely on Kirk Cousins in that offense way too much. I feel they upgrade the defense a little bit. No reason why the Vikings can't be back in this position next season. Okay, Ravens Bengals. Last game of Sunday. So I was actually doing a live play-by-play of this game over on JJL Sports Talk, where I am every Friday night. But for this, we did a special play-by-play edition. So I do the show, like I said, with Jordan, who's a Ravens fan. And I've been telling him all week the Bengals were going to win. So I figured do the play-by-play, have some fun. This game was much closer than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be close. I think my prediction was like 30-20 Cincinnati. So I predicted like a 10-point win. It was a 7-point margin with the Bengals winning 24-17. But if you watch that game, this game was closer than that score would tell you. The Ravens, you could make the argument, probably should have won this game, but it was because of a few mistakes they ultimately didn't. You could look at the end of the first half. The Ravens get into the red zone, had plenty of time to try to get a touchdown, ultimately couldn't get in, and they went into the half up 10-9 instead of 14-9. So I think that was a big win for the Bengals there. Ryan adds, Bengals and Bills coming in off disappointing games even though they won. I completely agree with you there, which is why that's probably going to make that matchup probably that much better because we don't really know what to expect. But yeah, so the Ravens doing that, going in 10-9 instead of 14-9, big win for the Bengals. Then, the play that ultimately was the game decider. They get back into the red zone. They're on the 2-yard line, I believe, or like the 2.5. They call a sneak from there, which, okay, I guess. For some reason, Huntley jumped and didn't extend the ball out until he, I don't know, he jumped up in a weird way before he jumped straight up with the ball close to him and then went to extend out. He got it knocked away from him. I believe it fell into the arms of Hubbard, who took it back the other way for a touchdown. Now, Ravens fans have been talking about it ever since the game ended. I think it was Mark Andrews who was in pursuit, big man chasing, uh, big man in Andrews chasing a big man in Hubbard. Seemed like he got pushed in the back. I said you're not going to get that call because I've seen kick returns or a similar thing happens. Where it looks like the player's going to score, a defender kind of gets nudged in the back. They don't call it. So I looked at this play from that lens. Like I said, of course, Jordan, the Ravens fan, he didn't really like that. I get it. But the Ravens had plenty of chances to win this game, so they could only really look at themselves in this one. But yeah, like I said, that put the Bengals up 24-17. The Ravens had another chance. Get down to about the 30-yard line. They throw like a mini Hail Mary. It gets deflected up in the air. Prochet standing there, hesitated for a split second in reacting. The ball hits off his fingertips, hits the ground, game over. They cut to Joe Burrow, who let out a big sigh of relief, which I think a lot of us watching at home did the same thing. So he perfectly, captured that moment with that reaction. And the Bengals move on, right? Now, kind of like what Ryan said, you can't come away from this game feeling too great about this Bengals team. And then over the course of the game, the Bengals dealt with some injuries to their offensive line, to, well, yeah, mainly the offensive line that was already beat up coming into this game. So I wonder, what is that going to do, I guess, come next week? If they make it past that week, the following week, is there come a point where the injuries to the offensive line ultimately sink the Bengals' opportunity to make it back to the Super Bowl? It could happen. But looking at the Ravens, who were eliminated in this game, now the Ravens have some questions to answer themselves. One, what is this Lamar Jackson situation? What's happening here? They said before the game, Lamar Jackson didn't even travel with the team to the game. So there was another person who was on, was it Anthony, who was on the live play-by-play, who was another Ravens fan. So I asked both of them if they felt like that was a big deal. They both said no. I felt like there was a story there. Because yes, I get it. Lamar tweeted out his knee felt unstable. If you're going to tell me it was unstable to the point where he wasn't allowed to fly or something, fine. It just felt weird to me, Lamar not being on the sideline. Because yes, we knew he wasn't going to play. If you say your knee's unstable, not expecting you to play, especially when Lamar's skill set is like 75% his legs, a little bit different. And Ryan says, I don't think Lamar is a Raven next season. There's a good reason to think that after this game. Like I said, I'm not one of those who thinks he didn't play because of whatever. But I feel like you could still travel with the team. Right? Is that crazy of me to think that he could have shown up, when Huntley, maybe he could have spotted something that Huntley couldn't. So when Huntley's on the sideline, he's talking to him, all that kind of stuff. He could have done that, right? But he didn't. So if the question is with Lamar that the Ravens aren't budging off of the contract offer that they offered him before the season, which Lamar turned down then, I'm assuming he's going to turn it down again if the Ravens come back with that number. And Ryan says he should have been on the sidelines if he was close to playing. There's no way it was that bad. I mean, Ryan, you're kind of on my side of the street. But like I said, he said unstable knee. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that his knee was unstable. So playing was out of the question. But he's looked at as a team leader. And if you want to say that he should have been on the sideline, at least helping in some way, I can agree with that. If you want to take the side that it's not that big of a deal because his knee was hurt, he was hurt, maybe he was rehabbing, Sure, if you want to take that side of the street, knock yourself out. But I just feel like it looks bad that he wasn't there. So now, like I said, if Lamar comes to the table, because we know he represents himself with his mom, and they say we want fully guaranteed, if I'm Baltimore, I got to look at that and say, I mean, that's cute that you want that, but these past 2 years, you've been hurt at the end of the season. That's when we need you most. So why would we fully guarantee you? Also, they have to have questions about his play style and how much it holds up in today's NFL. Yeah, Lamar has speed. There's plenty of defenders who are just as fast as him. Well, I wouldn't say plenty, but there's defenders just as fast as him. And yes, I know he got hurt in the pocket, whatever. But if he's going to rely on his legs as much as he does now, I think Baltimore's got to question what's the shelf life. Maybe that played into this game as well because we know Sammy Watkins and a few others were like, "Why don't you just brace it up and play?" I think Mike Vick was another one who said that, and I think that works with certain quarterbacks because you remember Phillip Rivers played a playoff game with a torn ACL. Phillip Rivers also isn't mobile, so if Lamar were a better passer, I could say maybe that's part of the equation. But this current version of Lamar, you take his speed away from him, he's going to give you nothing anyway. And Ryan says, especially since he's fast, if his knees are bad, I wouldn't give him that big of a contract. Now, to, I guess go back at Ryan here, you listen to these pundits on TV and stuff, they all make it seem like it's a done deal that he should get that kind of money. And the fact that the Ravens haven't done it is disrespectful, which I don't understand that point of view. Because, like I said, it is a question that Baltimore has to ask himself. The only way I think you could ask that you could come to that conclusion that the Ravens are being disrespectful, is if you think the Ravens are holding back Lamar and Lamar is capable of doing more. Now, if you want to have that argument with me, I'm willing to listen. But I kind of find it hard that, the team that's built this squad around a guy, got him an MVP, is now all of a sudden not letting him be him. That's just me, though. But it's going to be interesting offseason with Lamar as well as some other quarterbacks, which get into here in a little bit. But Ryan, you already said you don't think Lamar's a Raven next season. I think I've seen a few other people in here. You guys think Lamar will be a Raven at the start of next season? And to me, it comes down to about three options. One, he signs a long-term deal. Two, he's franchise tagged. Or three, he's playing somewhere else. So Ryan said he's playing somewhere else. And then for you, Ryan, where do you think Lamar ends up next year? Because I know Vegas put the Patriots as the number one spot if Lamar leaves. I never thought about Lamar in New England, and now that Vegas has put it out there, I don't know if I see a path to him getting there. So Ryan says I think he could go to the Jets, which we know the Jets are going to be hungry for to get one of these quarterbacks in the offseason. Okay, so I'll say, with Lamar, if he leaves Baltimore, a place that's built the system for him, he goes somewhere else. He'd have to go somewhere where if the system's not completely built for him, the pieces are there to fit him right now while they try to manipulate it a little bit. So if he goes to the Jets, you got Brees Hall in the backfield. Okay, I like that. For wide receivers, you got, was it Elijah Moore? Who, he wanted out this year, but I guess you bring Lamar, he'd probably be more willing to stay. You got Wilson. That's a receiving group that I think could work with Lamar. I'm one of these who believes that Lamar, the best wide receivers to put around him would be the ones who are great with yards after the catch, not necessarily the ones that are burners down the field. The Jets have a really good defense. So yeah, I mean that's almost the most compatible to the Ravens situation. It's kind of the Jets. Now, are the Jets willing to go as far as they may have to sign Lamar? Is another question. I mean, that's a good spot. Definitely is a good spot for him. Because when I looked at it, like ultimately the best spot for him would probably be San Francisco with the way that they're built. But I don't see San Francisco needing him, so kind of take that out of the equation. I feel like he fits in Atlanta, but I doubt he wants to go to Atlanta with all of the issues that they have with that team. He goes to Atlanta, they're probably, I don't know, 2, 3 years away. Now, luckily for him, that division, the NFC South, is much easier to win next year than the AFC North. I mean, the NFC is a much better conference to win next season than the AFC next year. Because the AFC, we already know those top three teams are going to be there: Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati. Chargers, talented. Jacksonville, talented and coming up. But I'm saying, if he wants to switch it up, then he could do that. So Ryan says, yeah, it's kind of like what I'm saying. If Brady's now with the Bucks, that takes that division down a bit. Oh yeah, you just added that. Yeah, yeah, I know what you meant. If if Brady's now with the Bucks and the Bucks turned out to be a bit of a disaster this year, yeah, if he goes to the NFC South with the Falcons, they're probably the odds-on favorite to win that division. But I'm assuming Lamar is looking to win, well, playoff games number one. He only has one under his belt right now. It was a road playoff win, which counts for a little bit more, but still only one. I think he ultimately wants a Super Bowl. Like I said, you go to Atlanta, you probably win the division, but I don't know if I would pick that Atlanta squad over, Eagles, Cowboys, Niners. I think those teams probably aren't going away. Giants, Giants would probably be better. So I just feel like Lamar, the possible situations for him to go to that may be better equipped for him than Baltimore are limited. And then for Baltimore, if they move on from Lamar, bring in, I don't know, Derek Carr or whoever, would the change away from the Lamar system to the new quarterback system be so much that they take a step back next year before moving forward? So I guess I say all that to say I think that Baltimore and Lamar probably need each other. It's whether or not, well, I guess it's kind of a game of chicken. Who comes off of their stance first? If Lamar wants fully guaranteed, does he back off of that and just go, look, Baltimore, you offered me 133 guaranteed before the season. You give me 150, 175 guaranteed. We got ourselves a deal. And would Baltimore then be like, all right, we'll give you a little bit more? So that's another situation to look at. Then, like I said, for Cincinnati, and as Ryan said in the comments, they didn't have a great game. And if they want to get back to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to play better than they did against the Ravens. Maybe they underestimated the Ravens. I don't know. But, yeah, they're going to have to change that mentality next week against the Bills. And the offensive line. You got to tell me who's starting on the offensive line. They get a week of practice, so whoever is available, hopefully they can kind of fast track the continuity stage, get in sync, go into Buffalo, and then, play their best game. But also like Ryan said, Bengals and Bills coming off of games where they weren't at their best. So now it's a little bit of which team do we get next week? Final game of the wild card weekend. Cowboys and the Bucks. This is a game I had the Bucks winning, but Ryan just dropped a comment in here. I have to go now. Come back and watch the rest of the video tomorrow. Yeah, have a good night, Ryan. I appreciate you stopping by. Like I said, I'm gonna be doing a lot more of these live streams, so hopefully, you definitely stop on by for the next one. But yeah, have a great night. Appreciate you, and I mean I know you're subscribed to me on YouTube and all that, so I appreciate you. But yeah, so Bucks, I had them winning against the Cowboys, kind of going against every analytical fiber I had because looking at it on paper, the Cowboys were the better team. Even though they struggled down the stretch, they were still playing better than the Bucks, who limped into the playoffs because of that division. The other three teams finished 7-10. The Bucks won it at 8-9. So it was a down year for everybody there. And I was one of those who week after week would always say, the Bucks have to figure it out, don't they? Nah, they don't. They didn't, and now they're done. So, first issue with the Bucks, Tom Brady had to throw the ball 66 times. Some of that was because they were down, yes, but where was Leonard Fournette? You remember Leonard Fournette when he was coming out of LSU. He talked about the NFL is going to be easy because he's from the SEC. And yeah, this wasn't a good year for him. So I want to see what kind of changes this team makes. Now, once again, next year in that division, I think is going to be probably theirs to win. But the biggest question now is we saw how Tom Brady walked off the field. And I'll probably get back into this a little bit later because I see from the description. I'm going to talk about Brady and Rodgers in a little bit. But was this the last time that we've seen Brady on an NFL field? Brady in a Bucks uniform? Or some third option, which I mean, I don't know. He goes back there for another year. And I don't know. Walking off, hand in the air. He what? Kissed his dad and his mom who were standing there. That looks like a guy who's leaving. I think he did the press conference after the game. He said he appreciated Tampa Bay for everything they did for him. That sounds like a guy who's ready to move on. Now, moving on, is that into retirement? Because we know he has the analyst job waiting for him. I believe that's still waiting for him when he does retire. Or is it just him moving on to another situation? We keep hearing about Vegas. We keep hearing about him going back home playing for the Niners. I mean, we've heard what the Titans because of Mike Vrabel. And then we've heard other people like what Ryan Clark, who said after this game, who would really want Tom Brady next year? I mean, I think that was a crazy comment because Tom Brady wants to play football next year. He will find somewhere to play football. But yeah, so ultimately the situation in Tampa Bay, yeah, it just wasn't great this year. They fired Byron Leftwich. I don't think they made a decision on Todd Bowles. I don't know. I could see Todd Bowles being a casualty of all of this. Even though Todd Bowles is the handpicked guy for Bruce Arians, it wasn't a good year for him. And this is definitely not a good way to end the year for Todd Bowles. So there could be some serious changes in Tampa Bay. And one of those changes may be Tom Brady not being there. But, look at the Cowboys here. They get a road playoff win. Yes, it was against a team that wasn't as good as them, but it's still a road playoff win. We've seen the Cowboys in other playoffs kind of not play up to their potential and lose a game like this. So maybe I was thinking too much about that instead of looking at both these teams and really understanding that the Cowboys were the better team. Dak, he finally had a game where he didn't throw an interception. And look, they were able to score 31 points. So the Cowboys going forward, we've already heard the question out there, are the Cowboys a Super Bowl contender? Yeah, I get it. They're the Cowboys. They're I guess most valued franchise. They're probably the most popular or whatever. Yeah, I get it. I'm not ready to put them in that group of Super Bowl contenders yet. To me, the NFC still comes down to Eagles, Niners. I mean, is there a path to the Cowboys beating the Niners next year? I mean, not next year, next week. Yeah, I could see it happening. Would I pick it? You have to wait for my picks though. But I, I don't know because the Cowboys have a lot of talent. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about the Cowboys after this game. This is one of those games where they played well, but because of how bad the Bucks were, I don't know how to evaluate them. So I'm kind of in wait and see mode with them. Now, obviously, if they go out to San Francisco, beat the Niners, okay, we can start having the conversation about them possibly making this year the year that they finally get to a Super Bowl. But as of right now, I can't go there. So, big win for the Cowboys, and yeah, we'll just see what they do against the Niners. So that was the wild card playoffs. But now let's look at the division round. Quickly go over each matchup. Give you my quick thoughts. I feel like don't really need to break down each of the matchups too much. Because at this point, it's the playoffs. We've seen 19 weeks of these teams. We kind of know what they are. So looking at the bracket here, it looks like the first game will be Saturday, Jacksonville, Kansas City. So Jacksonville, like I said before, I like to watch them play. I like what Doug Peterson's doing with this group. Excuse me. They are a legit Cinderella story, I guess. Looking at the teams remaining, I think it ends this weekend. I think Jacksonville keeps it closer than maybe what people think. I'm not sure what the spread is. Looking at it real quick. So Kansas City's an 8.5 point favorite. I wouldn't be shocked if Jacksonville covers. If this is like a 6 point win, for the Chiefs, like a 30-24 type of game, I wouldn't be surprised by that. Um, I think this is going to be a good teaching tool for Jacksonville going up against a team like Kansas City that normally doesn't beat themselves. Andy Reid has them well coached. They're usually well prepared. So this is going to be a definite test for this Jacksonville team. But like I said, ultimately may pay off for them in the end, make them that much better next season. If Jacksonville's going to have a chance in this one, I feel like you cover Kelsey. You can't let Kelsey beat you. That's one. And two, you got to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. If they could do both of those things, then maybe they steal. Maybe they steal this one and pull the upset. But they obviously can't have Trevor Lawrence throw 4 interceptions in the first half. That definitely can't happen. So I like Kansas City in this one, but we'll see. Jacksonville on the road, Arrowhead is going to be hostile. Do they take another step and show some more toughness in this one? But like I said, I think they keep it closer than the spread, and I think Jacksonville covers the 8.5. The next game, Saturday night, Eagles Giants. I mean, that was obviously going to get a prime time slot. Storied history, NFC East rivals there. So the Giants are the Cinderella story of the NFC, and the Eagles come into this one as the top seed, coming off the bye. I think there's some questions about this Eagles team. Just how hurt is Jalen Hurts? The Eagles and Giants played a couple of weeks ago. Giants kept that game very close. I think did the Giants win that game? They might have. I can't remember. But I like the way this Giants team is playing. But like I said, with the Eagles, this is kind of uncharted territory for them. Because now coming off the bye, there shouldn't be any rust or anything. But with the Giants having all this momentum, if the Giants start off fast, does it knock the Eagles back so much that they can't recover and the Giants pull off another upset? Or do the Eagles kind of play up as the number one team in the NFC? Jalen Hurts, spreading the ball around. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goddard, who just came back a few weeks ago. They get the running game going with Miles Sanders. Kind of show that balanced attack and ultimately overwhelm the Giants because we know the Eagles have a really good secondary, really good defensive line as well. So can Daniel Jones, with we know not a top assortment of wide receivers, go into Philly, pull off another upset? That's definitely the question of the hour. I have the Eagles winning this one. It's a 7.5 point spread. See, 7.5 is tricky. Can I see a touchdown win for the Eagles? Yes, but that would make it that the Giants. Mm, hmm, I don't know. I like the Eagles. I think the Giants cover the 7.5. To be honest with you, so for this one, I could see maybe like a 23-17 type of game. Um, I think it will be a really good test for the Eagles. But like I said, the the Giants come into this one with all of the momentum, and um, it's gonna be tough for them. But yeah, give me the Eagles 23-17 ish. Giants cover, but the Eagles get the win. It may look a little rough early on because of the bye week. I feel like teams coming off the bye week can start off slow, so I think that happens here. But I think ultimately the Eagles are the better team and they get the win. Um, Hold on a second. Um, yeah, so then the next game we're looking at Sunday. So the first game on Sunday is the Bengals Bills. So this one, as Ryan mentioned before he got out of here, both these teams are coming off probably C+ performances in round one in the wild card round. To be honest with you, but I do think this is the matchup that these two teams have been waiting for because this is the game that we remember was canceled from a few weeks ago because of the Damar Hamlin situation, which was the right decision. But we also know that Cincinnati is a little bit upset at the fact that this game, I believe, is in Buffalo. Let me double check that because I've seen people who say that this was going to be neutral site, but I could have sworn it said it's in Buffalo, and it is in Buffalo because I feel like what I read was the NFL ultimately decided that Cincinnati and Buffalo both played 16 games, so with them going against each other, it's easier to match them up because they play the same number of games and Buffalo had a better record. I think Cincinnati's claim was they were winning that game. If they did win that game, then this game would be in Cincinnati because Cincinnati would have the tiebreaker. So I think because of that, a lot of people thought it should have been a neutral site game. I mean, it is what it is at this point. Now, we know that Joe Burrow's the type that if that type of energy is flowing through Cincinnati's locker room, Burrow's the type to channel that and play really good. I wonder though with the offensive line injuries, how beat up are they actually and how bad does it make them look? Because we know early in the season when they struggled, the offensive line was an issue. Now you're dealing with a new offensive line that hasn't had weeks and weeks and weeks to gel or anything. So that's going to affect Burrow in protection. That's going to affect Joe Mixon, who I said coming into this playoffs was probably the most important guy for Cincinnati offensively, because if he can get going, that makes Cincinnati's offense that much more dangerous. But if the offensive line can't block for him, you kind of can't really expect him to do much because he relies on the offensive line. So I am picking Cincinnati in this one. I picked Cincinnati before the playoffs. I'm sticking with it. I'm going to say they find a way to get it done, but it's starting to look like there's like kind of no reason to really pick them here because, like I said, offensive line issues. affecting Burrow's time in the pocket, which means maybe they can't run, those routes where Chase goes deep or Boyd goes deep over the middle, stuff like that, and they kind of rely on a short passing game. I'm going to go off of the fact that I think the offensive line figures out a way. They figure out a way to get it done. Zach Taylor, whatever, pieces together an offensive line that holds up, that's able to protect Burrow in this one. And then because of that, I feel like Cincinnati gets the win here. Now, for Buffalo, I already talked about it. Josh Allen has to get out of the habit of, throwing those random jump balls that cause unnecessary turnovers. He's got to get away from that. And if he can, good. But if he ultimately can't, then I think Buffalo has a chance here. So I think this one is 5.5. I am picking Cincinnati, but it is Buffalo that's a 5.5 point favorite. Like I said, I think Cincinnati finds a way to beat Buffalo this weekend. So I'm taking the Bengals to cover. I think this game could really go either way. Like if I'm sitting here Monday and Buffalo, won, I wouldn't be shocked by it. I feel like these two teams are that close. But yeah, give me Cincinnati. I'll take Cincinnati in this one. And then the final game of divisional round, we have Dallas and 49ers, which is the late game on Sunday, but it's not quite, 8:30 or whatever. So what, 6:30? So, the Niners come into this one as a 4-point favorite. I'm taking the Niners here, but I keep hearing more and more people kind of coming around to the Cowboys pulling an upset here. I can't go there because I've been, basically since the second half of the season, I've been saying that the Niners are the most complete team in the NFL. I think they still are, even though there's questions about Brock Purdy. Purdy has shown me enough that I can believe that in another game that's going to be at home, he can duplicate the performance he had last week. It's going to be different, though. Seattle defensively is not on the Cowboys' level. Now, if Purdy's rolling out, scrambling, he's going to have Micah Parsons chasing him. I mean, can he survive that a few times? We'll see. But my questions are about Dallas offensively. I don't think they could put up 31 points on this Niners defense. So if the Niners defense can hold them to like 20 at most, I think the Niners have a really good chance. If the Cowboys somehow find a way to put up 31 against this Niners defense, I don't know if a Purdy-led offense could do more than that against the Cowboys. So I think this game comes down to, can Parsons, Lawrence, those guys defensively with Diggs on the back end, can they confuse Purdy enough that he looks like a Mr. Irrelevant in this game, struggles mightily, and ultimately holds back the Niners? Or does, the Niners with like Fred Warner, Bosa, and those guys, do they make Prescott look like the guy he was the second half of the season where he was throwing interceptions? What do you throw, like 11 interceptions in his last 7 games or something like that? Because I do think if the Niners can turn the Cowboys over twice, I think they win comfortably. Like comfortably, I say like a touchdown. So like I said, San Francisco -4. I think the Niners cover. I could see this game being probably like a 27-20 type of game. It could be something where the Cowboys have the ball in their hands with a chance to tie the game, and Dak throws a late interception. That's what I think happens. I think the Niners win it 27-20. So yeah, 4 games. I've got Kansas City, I've got Cincinnati, Philly, San Francisco. That's why I have winning it. And then in terms of the lines, I've got the Jaguars covering 8.5, the Giants covering 7.5 against the Eagles. Actually, let me say it differently. Give me the Jaguars plus 8.5, have the Chiefs winning. Giants plus 7.5, Eagles winning. I've got Bengals plus 5.5, and Bengals winning outright, and Niners -4 winning. So I'm picking against the spread in 3 out of the 4 games. But let me know who you have winning this weekend. If you're catching this later, like Ryan Jansen is, put it down in the comment section. I'll definitely respond to you there. But yeah. So now the other part of this episode, I want to talk about the quarterback position. I think most notably, you got to look at, well, we talked about Lamar earlier, but Brady and Rodgers. Those are the two names that we're going to be hearing about all offseason. Probably hearing about Aaron Rodgers much more or longer into the offseason because we know how he treats the offseason. But is there a situation that both of these guys are playing somewhere else next season? To be honest with you, yes. I think Brady probably definitely is somewhere else. Because I think Brady looks at this Bucks team, and if he goes back there, because I think Brady's probably looking at playing one more year. I feel like he's not going to let this year be the final year for him, how it ended. So he's going to go to a better situation. I guess at least better on paper, because we'll never know unless he's playing there if it's better or not. But I think he goes somewhere else, probably Vegas, but he's not in Tampa Bay. With Rodgers, they re-signed him with last season, but I think there's a legitimate chance that, well, at least this is where the Packers should be. I think I think the Packers should be at the point where it's like we can't keep doing this with this guy because ultimately, what are we getting in return? This past year, we went 8-9, 8-9 with Rodgers, who started the season off trashing the young wide receivers, but by the end of the season, Christian Watson, one of those same young guys, turned out to be the best receiver they had. So, do we need to keep going with this? From everything I've been hearing and keep hearing, Devontae Adams left last season because Aaron Rodgers is so indecisive. I don't see that changing this year. I feel like Aaron Rodgers is just going to hold it out as much as he can. We kind of heard him speak after the season. He said, am I like MVP capable or something like that? And I think I am. Even reading that, I was like, shouldn't you have said, do you see yourself at a Super Bowl like type level? But he said, do you see yourself winning MVP? Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but that kind of lets you know where he's thinking about this. It's about Aaron Rodgers, which is kind of been my issue, but whatever. So, if Rodgers leaves, which I guess if he leaves, it'd be retirement. I think he's under like a 2-year. I think he has like 2 more years left on his deal. Well, I mean, I guess Green Bay could technically trade him, whatever. But if he's somewhere else, whether it's another team or retired, how would Packers fans feel if Jordan Love is the starting quarterback next year? They traded up to get him, so clearly they see something in him, but we haven't seen much of him to know what it will be like. But like I said, to be honest with you, if I'm Green Bay, I kind of wouldn't mind going that route. Aaron Rodgers, he had the thumb injury, whatever, this year. I guess you could say that probably affected his play. But if Rodgers is completely healthy next year, how much better than the 8-9 team that they were this year are they next year? That's going to be the question for Green Bay. Because, I feel like people were saying Lazard looks like he won't be back. You have Watson. What else? You have Aaron Jones, you have A.J. Dillon. But with Rodgers this year, they didn't really use those guys as much as they probably should have. Who's to say it wouldn't be worse next year with those two? So I I've gotten to the point probably about 2 years ago where I thought the drama that surrounds Aaron Rodgers is probably worth more than the player is right now. Because I still look at Aaron Rodgers for all the talent that people say about him. He has one NFC title win, which happened in the same year he won a Super Bowl, which has been, what, 12, 13 years now. There's got to be some explanation for that. And it can't be, oh, they didn't draft wide receivers. Okay. The guy he's compared to, Tom Brady, spent all those years in New England. They didn't draft wide receivers high. He managed to get it done. I mean, I know what people say Brady had Belichick. Granted, Brady played in an AFC East that wasn't that good. Sure. Have you seen the NFC North these past few years? Okay. Just saying. The Packers for a lot of Rodgers' career have had a free ride through that division because who's really been a steady, opponent of theirs throughout these years? I, mm-hmm. Now I will say next year, I think the Lions will be better for sure. I think if the Bears know what they're doing and do the right stuff this offseason, the Bears will be better next year. I think the Vikings aren't going anywhere next year. So I don't know. The Packers could be staring at another 8-9 type of year next year. And did you know that Aaron Rodgers is set to make, was it 58 million next year? 58 million. And there's no guarantee he's going to get you to the playoffs, much less a Super Bowl. 58 million. You tell me what the smart decision is there. So, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I think Brady's gone. I think for Brady, it's either Vegas or the Niners, which I think is probably his two preferable destinations. If he can't get to those two, I think retirement is probably his third option. I heard people say the Jets. I can't see Brady playing for the Jets. I can't. I can't. Maybe it's more of I won't see him in the Jets uniform. If he signs with the Jets will not exist to me next season. I couldn't, in good faith, watch that as a Patriots fan. The Patriots play the Jets. I won't watch it. Nope. Not going to happen. So I think it's Vegas, Niners, or retirement. Um, for Rodgers, I guess if they trade him, which I guess is the only way he could go, because if they cut him, that's a hefty dead cap number to carry around for 2 more years. But if they do that, I mean, that's the easiest way to get rid of him. Not the smartest, but it's the easiest way. But if Aaron Rodgers is not in Green Bay, where could I see him playing? I could see Aaron Rodgers in Vegas. Aaron Rodgers gives me Raiders type of vibes, to be honest with you. Maybe not Vegas Raiders, but if they were still in LA, Rodgers fits LA Raiders vibe. And by saying that, I'm not even really sure what that means. I just see him in Raiders. Yeah, I can see it. Maybe with the Niners, if the Niners can't get Brady, which I'd be surprised if they couldn't because that was his childhood team. But if Brady decides he doesn't want to go there, and they could get Aaron Rodgers, could I see Aaron Rodgers in San Francisco? Yes, I could see that. Outside of that, maybe New York. I could Aaron Rodgers as a Jet. I could see that. And then the Dolphins, who I haven't even talked about in terms of these quarterbacks, because I think the Dolphins said they're committed to Tua. I don't know if I believe them or whether I should believe them. Because for all we know, um, Tua may be forcing the retirement or something. I don't know. But I guess between Brady and Rodgers, maybe Rodgers more likely in Miami than Brady. That's about it. But if it was me, I would go after Brady first because I don't know. I just don't like the drama Aaron Rodgers seems to bring along with him, especially at this advanced age. And I think it was what Stephen A. on First Take said Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown for over 300 yards in the game since I think November 2021. That's a long time ago for a guy who's supposed to be, you know, one of the greatest of all time. You know, whatever. But um, yeah, so they're going to be probably the two hottest names in the quarterback market. Lamar, a lot of people will be looking at that situation as well. And Derek Carr, who I guess I'll talk about real quick. Derek Carr is clearly not going back to the Raiders. They made that very clear at the end of the season. Derek Carr, I could see going. Derek Carr's interesting. Like if Brady leaves from the Bucks, could they just replace him with Derek Carr? I guess they could. I don't know what that really does for them. So I feel like the Bucks, if they lose Brady, should just go young. I think they have Kyle Trask on that team. I think you might as well just go there. Let's say Rodgers leaves the Packers. Do I see Derek Carr in Green Bay? I don't think so because I think they would just go Jordan Love. Okay, swipe those off. Vegas, he's not going back. Swipe that off. The Jets. I could see Derek Carr in New York. I could. I think it's between that, Tennessee. Another sneaky spot that they probably need an upgraded quarterback. I could see Derek Carr in Tennessee. Actually, after saying it a second time, I kind of like Derek Carr's fit in Tennessee. Because for Tennessee, you're looking at that division, you're only really worried about Jacksonville for the next couple of years. Houston's still trying to figure things out. The Colts, who knows? I don't know what's going on there. They hire Jeff Saturday for whatever reason. He goes 1-7. They come out and say he's being considered for the job. I guess. Mm-hmm. Then looking from the outside, what coach would want that after how Ursay's kind of handled that coaching situation? I don't know who would feel comfortable going there. I don't know. I just don't know how desirable it is to work for Jim Irsay at this point. But they're gonna have to hire somebody, so somebody's gonna take the job. But the Colts have issues with quarterback. They have Jonathan Taylor in running back, who there could be questions about how much longer does he have. He's been used an awful lot. And this season we saw him start having lower body injuries, which is never good for a running back. So questions there. Wide receiver, you got Pittman, you got Alec Pierce who came on this year. Are those two dynamic? So I think there's a lot of questions. Defensively, there's some questions in Indianapolis as well. So I don't know. I don't think that's a quick turnaround. So if you get Derek Carr in Tennessee, you still have Derrick Henry, although Derrick Henry, I've been on record as saying, I don't know how long he lasts. He's starting to slow down. Wide receiver, they probably need some help, but I could see Vrabel turning that around much quicker than the Colts. Which, to be honest with you, the Colts need a quarterback. I don't see any of these guys going there. I think the Colts need to finally draft somebody. Try that. We've seen the experiment in Indianapolis with Wentz, Ryan, Foles, Rivers. Didn't work. Just start with a young guy and figure it out. Just do it. I'm sure there's going to be some other quarterbacks that shake loose from their teams. I'll just answer this question real quickly because, like I said, Patriots fan. I am all in on Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is not as bad as people think he is. And, yeah, I think New England's issues, just get an offensive coordinator. Boom. I think you fix Mac Jones. Well, get the right offensive coordinator. I can't say just get an offensive coordinator. I think we heard what they've interviewed. Well, I don't know if they. Well, I guess their candidates are like Bill O'Brien, Nick Caley, Keenan McCardle, who was the Vikings wide receiver coach. I didn't see that name popping up, but I like it. What Adrian Clem, who was drafted there way back in the day, might have been Belichick's first year. He's been working in Oregon. He's going for an interview. I'm assuming he's a long shot, but you know. Trying to see what else for I get out of here. So like I said, I'm gonna be doing a lot more of these live streams, whether it's play by plays or podcast episodes. So you guys be on the outlook for these. Make sure that you subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. Follow. You know what to do. That way you can be informed when I do pop up on a live. Just want to get that out of the way. I'm trying to think if there's anything else NFL wise I wanted to talk about on here before I get out of here. Well, I guess I'll play out this playoff thing really quickly, just to let you know that um, my Super Bowl pick kind of coming into all this was Niners, Bengals. I'm kind of sticking to that. I haven't seen anything, I guess, that would, uh, take me off of that yet. So, as of right now, that's where I'm sticking with it. And I think I said this before, but yeah. So, you guys who may catch this later, drop in the comments who do you have meeting in the Super Bowl at this point. If it's changed, you can give me what your original thought was, but yeah, I'm sticking with Bengals Niners at this point. But I think that's enough time for me. You know, definitely enjoyed doing this. This has been fun for me. Hopefully, you guys who did come in, like Ryan Jansen, who killed it in the comment section. Appreciate you stopping by. I know you're going to check it out later. So I just want to say appreciate you. Hopefully you come around for the next one. But yeah, this has been great. Like I said, do much more of these so I can get the interaction with you guys. So like I said, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please let other people know. I'm trying to build a little community with you guys. So I appreciate you as well. 2023 I feel like it's gonna be a big year for the podcast. So I'm definitely excited for stuff to come. And like I said, it's gonna be kind of tied to these live streams. So get used to them. It's gonna be a packed year of live streams for you guys. But thanks again. Hopefully you enjoyed the not only the stream but Super Wild Card weekend. I thought it was a really good weekend for the NFL. Can't wait for the divisional round weekend. Guessing my next stream might be after the games, Saturday and Sunday. May do one before that. I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe doing Celtics Warriors play by play Thursday. So if I decide to, that'll be the next time you see me up on here. But yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. As I always say, be safe out there. God bless. And I'll catch you on the next episode. All right, guys. Have a good night. And I'll see you later.